we have an important decision to make here in Lewis and Clark County, and it's up to the voters to make that decision. The decision we have to make is associated with our jail, our detention center. So the voters have already made a decision and have approved a general obligation bond levy to provide money to renovate the existing jail located down on Breckenridge. So in approving the renovation of that jail, that's the first step. But in order to operate the jail, there's a levy question for the voters to decide upon to fund the operation and maintenance. We call it O&M, okay, operation and maintenance. So this question before our voters is whether or not to approve a tax levy to take care of the O&M for the renovated jail. One cannot happen without the other. So we will not be doing the renovation unless the operation and maintenance is also approved, again, by the voters of our county.
The reason that we put this resolution out to the voters was to get their permission to allow the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office and people who are involved in the criminal justice system make sure that our criminal justice system works a lot better. Frankly, right now it's not working so well. We have many, many people who are incarcerated who really should not be. We have people on the streets who should be incarcerated who are not because there's no room for them.
Our facility, our physical plant is woefully undersized, and we're out of space, and we are jamming people in there far beyond its capacity that was built 30 years ago, and we need a larger space. We cannot provide good service to people. We cannot keep people safe. We cannot keep our employees safe, and we cannot adequately protect the public if we don't have a space to do that work.
It's extremely important for the residents, the voters of Lewis and Clark County to consider this mill levy in order for the detention facility to function. We're not asking for anything fancy. It's not something that would be a Taj Mahal. The detention facility, law enforcement, public safety is the responsibility of the county, starting with the Constitution of Montana, and comes to the county in the Montana Code annotated. It's spelled out what we, as a county, and what county government is responsible to provide.
Public safety is job one. We do a lot of things at Lewis and Clark County. We make sure that the food that you eat is safe. You know, if you go to a restaurant, you know, that you have good roads to drive on, all those kinds of things. But all of those things pale in comparison to our primary responsibility, which is public safety.
The people who protect us by working in that facility is first and foremost in my mind. Right now, the facility is deficient. Detention officers are being injured. That's unacceptable in my mind. And we don't often respond, I mean, it's just human nature. We don't often respond to potential perils and risks until something happens. And then it's too late. It's like, yeah, I would love to have a great insurance policy, but I'm going to buy it the day before the accident happens. It doesn't work that way. And when the accident happens, and it's after the fact, and we haven't fully vetted and given every opportunity to ensure the safety of the folks who work up there, then all of that comes right back here.
The safety of the people that we incarcerate. I know that a lot of people would like to lock them up and throw away the key. You know, that has not worked for us in the past. That hasn't really worked for any place in the United States in the last decade and a half. So we need to look at that approach. And the fact is that once a person gets arrested and he is put into a police car or a deputy's vehicle, that person is de facto becoming a ward of the state. It's like we are adopting that person. We are responsible for every single bite of food that they eat, medical care that they might need. We need to keep them safe. It's the law. It's in the United States Constitution under Amendment 8 of the Bill of Rights. And so whether we like it or not, whether we think these people are guilty or awful people, really is irrelevant, because the fact of the matter is that the law protects them.
We hear at times, you know, what's in this for me? What value do I get by voting yes for this, or being taxed more for these services? And what we've been trying to say is that we can't, at this point, with the facility we have and with the staff that we have, we can't provide good public safety. We can't ensure that our employees are safe. We can't ensure a humane environment for the detainees there. And we don't do a very good job of working on the recidivism issue. So this is an investment by our community to try and address those issues. Have a space that is adequate, have a space that is safe, have a space where we can make sure that we're taking those people off the street that can really be a danger to our community, a danger to your neighborhood, your home, my home. So we need to do those things. It's an investment in that. And then in our system, it's an investment in our system in the sense that we can do a better job. If we had the resources to make sure that everyone left our facility with a plan, we gave everyone the best chance they could of being a responsible, productive citizen versus just revolving and coming back to our facility. We want to do that. So this is what we will spend their money on, is to try and provide a better system, an upgraded system, and in a facility that we can actually keep people safe and keep the community safe.
From an operational point of view and from an administrative point of view, we have an asset. Government has assets like roads and parks, infrastructure that we take care of all the time. This is a part of the infrastructure that we have as a county government, and we have a responsibility to take care of. Not only to take care of, but to also take care of efficiently and effectively. The operations now are not efficient. We are stressed with overcrowding. That has an impact on how we run the facility, how we staff the facility, and the safety of the people who work within the facility itself. So for our law enforcement personnel and for our detention center personnel, we have a major issue associated with our detention center. Now, the resolution itself and the bond levy is for 15 years. And the way it's been structured is based on a feasibility study that was done in 2016. The county went out and had a firm come in that took a look at criteria, methodologies, and logic associated with how you are supposed to staff and run a detention center. And it's based on square footage, it's based on the American Corrections Association standards that are a nationwide standard. And from that feasibility study was produced a cost estimate to rehabilitate the existing facility and also then operate and maintain that facility once it's rehabilitated or not rehabilitated, but restructured. So that's where the numbers come from. So the levy is based upon that, and it's for 15 years, and it produces about $4 million a year. And the funding will include funding for the staffing that is needed, and there's also substantial funding for programs as well too, associated with the way the prisoners are taken in, how they're evaluated and assessed, and wherever it's appropriate, pretrial services and diversion services. But we do hope that our voters here in our county will take the time to become an informed voter and determine for themselves. And one of the things that we're doing is we're offering tours of the county jail for anyone who wants to come in, and it's a tour where you can go in and also come out, okay? And you make the determination for yourself based on the information that you see. So we hope people will avail themselves of coming in and taking a look at what is the condition in the jail, what is it that we're trying to do.
This funding that they will act upon this November is multiple-fold. So big piece of that is about staffing. We have to staff the facility to the point that meets national standards. We have to staff the facility so that our people are safe and the people that are incarcerated are safe. And then in addition to that, there is funding included in this proposal that allows us to implement services that will divert people from our system, that will save jail beds, that will make our facility last longer, because we won't need to build more beds if we can divert people from the system, and those that absolutely don't need to be incarcerated, we don't incarcerate. So we're trying to implement what we call a pretrial services program, which would allow us to evaluate someone coming into the facility or being after they're arrested. Is this person a risk to the community? Is this person a risk of flight? If they're not, let's supervise them in the community at $20 a day, for example, versus $115 a day in the facility, or $112 a day in the facility. And so we're trying to save the taxpayer money by diverting people from the system and only incarcerating those people that need to be incarcerated. In addition to that, the funding contemplates ongoing funding for a mental health specialist and a mental health case manager in the facility that would evaluate folks that might have serious mental illness and allow us to address their mental illness and maybe move them from the facility into a more appropriate setting, or at least get that mental illness treated so that they may not re-engage the system later. We can keep them from recidivating.
And I want folks to understand that if this doesn't move forward, given the deficiencies in our detention facility and other deficiencies that the levy will address or begin to address, that we potentially are open to litigation. I mentioned earlier that detention officers have been injured. I know I come from the insurance industry, and we know that given frequency or claims frequency, the greater the frequency of claims, we know that the severity component is coming. And so it's not a question of if that severe injury, or hopefully not fatality, occurs. It's when.
This is not an issue that is unique to our county here in Lewis and Clark County. Jails and detention efforts and programs and safety in those kinds of facilities is something that's important all across Montana and all across the country. You're seeing different local governments have to deal with these very issues. So one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to pay attention to what some of our surrounding communities are doing as well and learn from what they do. Gallatin County, for instance, is one that we've been looking at closely, and they've put into place, you know, the facility that they have, along with the programs and the assessments that are being done, and also collecting the data that needs to be collected for these kind of operations. So those are some of the issues that we see associated with this tax levy.
Detention facilities and all of the issues regarding management of detention facilities with criminal justice is not unique to Lewis and Clark County at all. It's a national issue that is being addressed by the National Association of Counties. And you can find that on the NACO, is the acronym, website. You can drill in there and find those initiatives that NACO, National Association of Counties, is working on. Montana Association of Counties is a member of that, and so through those associations we learn a lot about criminal justice, about detention facilities, and we know that we're not alone here.
It is a public safety issue that is tied to quality of life for those of us who live here in Lewis and Clark County, so we have a decision to make. We need to move forward, and this vote will determine how we move forward, one way or the other.